Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see from the title, we have a new kind of video today. Much more personable, much more me just talking to the camera and just giving my raw unfiltered thoughts, right? And this is because we're in international break, aka for a football content creator, the worst time of the year. Now, yes, I know there's international friendlies, and yes, I know there's World Cup qualifiers and there's Nations League, but I'm gonna be very flat out honest with you guys. I don't care about any of that stuff. I really don't. Now, AFCON towards the end of that qualifying period, that's when it gets really interesting. But for now, I can guarantee you everyone knows the teams that will go to the final qualifying round of that. World Cup qualifying, everybody knows, bar maybe one exception, England's gonna qualify, Spain's gonna qualify, Germany's gonna qualify. It's hard for me to get excited about that. And then the Nations League, don't even get me started on that, honestly. That is the most hype of all time, right? Nations League. This basically just replaced international friendlies from a few years back, but forget about me. I'm sure you ask most of these players, do they really care about the Nations League? I think they'd have a hard time saying so. However, that means that we can kind of experiment with these videos and kind of talk about some different stuff. And as you guys again can see from the title, today we're going to be discussing the 5 players in world football that I consider the most entertaining players in the game. Now, entertainment is subjective. There's no statistics that can measure this. There's nothing you can quantify entertainment with. It's purely what I as an individual enjoy. So, first of all, what I find entertaining could be completely different to what you find entertaining. What I find boring as hell, you might find absolutely fascinating. However, there will be no statistics in this video. There will be no numbers, no mention of GA, none of that. This is the 5 players that get me off my seat. These are the 5 players that when they get on a pitch, yes, they want to score. Yes, they want to win games, but they also want to put on a show. They're showmen. So without further ado, let's get into my 5. Now, this 5 would have been a whole lot more difficult to do 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And simply put, it's because I think the amount of showmen, the amount of natural entertainers in the way they play football has declined over the last few years. I do think it has. As the game has become more of a team sport and more of a unit, an organized unit, teams defend together, they attack together. The game tactically has advanced leaps and bounds. I do think individualism has kind of been ushered out the back door as a result of that. So 5, 10, 15 years ago, you could have had Neymar, Ronaldinho, R9, Hazard. Like, you had so many of those showmen, where today, I don't think they're in as much abundance as they used to be. However, I've still managed to select a group of 5, and I've had to leave out a few tough names, right? Shout out to Zergova at Lille. If you know, you know. That guy's a baller. Shout out to Rodrigo at Real Madrid. Shout out to Michael Olise. This is just a few names that you will not be hearing. Ousmane Dembele. Terrific players, showmen in their own right. But the 5 I've gone for, I think, are at the moment in the game, the best 5 entertainers, the top 5 most entertaining players out there. That number 5 is actually my favorite player. That tells you something. My favorite player didn't get finished higher than 5th. That player is, of course, Jamal Musiala. Now, if you guys have been following me for a while, or even if you followed me recently, if you've seen me on Sky, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, on YouTube, I've made it no secret. This guy right here is my favorite player in the game. I absolutely adore watching Jamal Musiala. And for an obvious reason, he is a showman. And he's also a damn good player as well, too. One of the best young players in the game. And you know what makes Jamal Musiala so special, right? Is the fact that his showmanship and his dribbling and his ability to carry the ball, a lot of it comes through central areas. Now, dribbling in general is a lost art. And it's an art that is difficult no matter where you are, right? Being able to take on a guy and just destroy him, that's difficult. But I always say I think it's even more difficult doing it in central areas. Why is that the case? If you're out wide, taking on a man 1v1, more often than not, well, it's in the name, 1v1. And yes, there are times where a team overloads and you might have to be up against a double team or even a triple team. More often than not, it's you versus your fullback. You beat him, there's space to run into behind. Dribbling in central areas is so different, in my opinion, so much more difficult, because you're up against tightly congested, organized midfields that might sum up with 3 or even 4 players. So you beat one, you might have another midfielder coming towards you. Then you beat him, and then the defensive midfielder is waiting for you. And then you beat him, and then there's the back 4, and all the while, players are swarming in to double and triple team you. It's not as simple as an out wide game. I'm not trying to completely disregard that, because a lot of my top 5 are wide players. But dribbling and ball carrying and weaving your way through teams in a central area is so difficult. And that's why what Jamal Musiala does is so special to me. This guy is one of the best progressors. He's one of the best 1v1 players. He's one of the best ball carriers in the game, and so much of it comes down the middle. I think that's so impressive, and it makes him so valuable for his team because let's be real, guys, those kinds of players don't grow on trees. You had Messi who was able to do that. You had Neymar who was able to do that, Eden Hazard. But for the most part, the best dribblers in the world, they usually play out wide. To do what Musiala does down the middle is incredible. And what I love about Musiala as well too is it's not just dribbling, right? I love the croquetas, you know, the drags that he does. You guys know what I'm talking about. Musiala from left to right and then from right to left. He is the master at that. You used to see Andres Iniesta do that for fun back in the day. He really, in my opinion, took it to a whole nother level. But Musiala is bringing that trait back, that drag left to right or drag right to left. He does it, in my opinion, better than anyone in the game. As I said, he's my favorite player in the game as well too. But still, that's only enough to get him at number 5. At number 4 is a guy who actually inspired this video. I watched him, and after watching him over those 2 legs, and I've caught glimpses of him this season as well too, because as some of you might know, I work for Ligue 1, so I'm obliged to watch a lot of their games as well too. But the Liverpool tie is really what alarmed me more so than anything. I've known this guy's a good player, but that really took me back because it was the comfort that he had playing at that kind of stage and the ease in which he found getting his game off. That, of course, is Desiree Doue. Now, for some of you guys, that tie against Liverpool might have been the first glimpse that you really got to see of him. Maybe you don't watch Liga as much. Maybe that was the first big Champions League game you kind of took notice of him. But Desiree Doue is super talented, man. He's obviously come out and said that Neymar is such a huge influence to him. And growing up in France, when Neymar was playing for PSG and ripping it up when he was fit, it's no surprise why. You see Desiree Doue's game, and it's very clear that he's taken a player like Neymar so much as inspiration because whether it's the skills, the flicks, the tricks, the ability to kind of just dance when he's on the ball, right? Desiree Doue isn't like an ugly dribbler. There's some people, right, that are high volume dribblers, but their game isn't super beautiful to watch. Desiree Doue looks like he's dancing when he's dribbling, and it's so fun to watch him in full flow, right? It doesn't really look like he's exerting that much physical power when he's dribbling. It doesn't look like he's straining to beat his man. It just looks so natural to him. Desiree Doue is a very natural dribbler, and he's also a very good player as well too. Let's not lie, his final pass, his eye for goal. There's a real talent in Desiree Doue, and it's no surprise that Didier Deschamps has wasted no time getting him into his international team, getting him into the France squad. And I think his future, especially at PSG, when you look at so many guys who, by the way, Barcola, showman, Kvara, showman, Dembele, showman. But I think Desiree Doue, in terms of the art of putting on a show, the art of entertainment, I think he's the most fun to watch on that PSG team right now. And I cannot wait to see what kind of career he has in store for him because talent-wise and showmanship, forget about it, man. Now, coming in 3rd, and this is a tough one, right? But again, there's no metric to quantify this. It's not about who the best player is here. It's just about showmanship. And some people might disagree. Some people might be surprised he's not even 1. But I'm going to put him at 3rd. 3rd is Vinicius Jr. Now, Vinny, one of the more polarizing players in the game right now, right? And it's not really because of his quality, because I think everybody who knows Vinicius Jr. knows this guy is one of, if not the best player in the world. In my opinion, last year, he was the standout performer of the 23-24 season. And although he's really hit a rough patch this year, I think the ability to coexist with Mbappe, they're still figuring that out. The quality is undeniable, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? When you talk about showmanship, a lot of it has to do with bravery, and a lot of it has to do with almost valuing destroying your fullback or destroying your defender just as much as you value getting goals, getting assists, winning games. And with Vinicius, I do feel like he's one of the few players left in the game that still has that Brazilian samba flair to them. Yes, he's not Neymar. That's a whole other conversation, right? Neymar is one of one. Ronaldinho is one of one. But Vinicius, the willingness and almost the hunger to get the ball, look his fullback dead in the eyes and say, one-on-one, I'm going to kill you. It's fascinating to me. It's absolutely fascinating to me. This guy is an old school winger that matches flair and showmanship. And again, disgusting dribbling ability with a remarkable show of efficiency and numbers. But if we're just talking about the flair aspect, I mean, did you guys see the goal the other week that he scored where he picks up the ball on the left, does a step over or two to beat a guy, and then beats him again, and then dribbles and dribbles and dribbles and then scores? And it's like, how many players, forget about can even pull that off, but would even attempt that? Not many. And that's what makes Vinicius Jr. such a special player. He has that air of the 2000s, of the 1990s, of the 2010s, where he just wants to destroy his fullback. How many times do you see a winger these days pick up the ball, look up, and then pass back to their fullback? Or get the ball and just play it and then try and get into the box, which is absolutely fine, right? There's numerous ways to skin a cat. But when it comes to the art of showmanship, I'm sorry. Passing it back to your fullback, that ain't it, y'all. Vinicius, This guy is a one of one. He's an entertainer, he's a showman, and he's number 3 on my list. Some might argue he should even be number 1. At number 2, I have one of my favorite players in the world, and at the moment, he's quickly climbing up the ladder in terms of he might be number 1 this time next year. It might depend on what kind of move he can get. I watched this guy in the flesh, and it was one of the biggest privileges of my football viewing experience in my life I've ever experienced. That player at number 2 is Rayan Cherki. Wow. Guys. Now, for some of you guys, you might have just seen this guy on clips. You might have just seen him on the timeline on Twitter a few times, on highlights. Let me tell you this. As someone who has been blessed enough to be able to be in the presence and watch this guy do his thing, get to work, get his game off, and put on a show, this guy is special. Rayan Cherki is special. Special, capital S. Forget about it, man. Again, a player that oftentimes picks up the ball in tight, congested central areas. But differently to Musiala, who's very much so a guy who just picks up the ball and runs at players, Cherki's showmanship almost comes in his passing, his vision, his eye for the audacious, the back heels, the flicks, the tricks, the stepovers, the pausa, the ability to stop and start and go again. He has such a natural feel for the ball, right? There's some players that are on this list that maybe look a little unorthodox when they play. They maybe look like they're forcing it a little. Maybe you'd be talking about Vinicius or Musiala, great players. But when you talk about just smoothness and natural footballing ability, pure footballer, Rayan Cherki, forget about it. A lot of you guys are about to see him against Man United in a few weeks in the Europa League when Lyon go and take on Man United, both at Old Trafford and at the, what do they call it now? The Groupamama Stadium. This is my personal hope from that tie. I hope Man United beat the brakes off Lyon. That's my team, of course. I hope they beat the brakes off Lyon. I hope we qualify with ease. But at the same time, I hope Rayan Cherki puts on a show in front of Ineos and in front of the world. Because for a lot of people, that's going to be the first time they get to watch this guy live. And I really hope that their first viewing experience of Rayan Cherki is just as joyous as mine was. I really hope he brings them as much joy as he brought me. Because this is an ode to the past, Rayan Cherki. He's an ode to the old school playmaker. So many of the old number 10s have kind of been phased out because, let's be real, their defensive work rate off the ball is not existent. They're very lackadaisical. They play at their own pace. They don't track back. And in the modern game, like I said, you almost defend as a unit, right? You can barely afford to have any passengers unless they're Messi level. But Rayan Cherki is a real throwback of the Riquelmes, of the Ozils, of that kind of number 10 that, look, build the team around him, give him a good defensive platform to kind of work around, put 10 guys around him that'll run, and just let this little genius get to work. Rayan Cherki is out of this world good, man. In terms of natural talent, he's almost as good as it gets. Question is, can he translate that to the very, very, very elite level of football, which is something we're probably going to find out this summer, because at around 20, 30 million pounds, I think he's worth the punt. I think he's worth the risk. I'm such a fan of this guy, and he sits at number 2. But at number 1, I'm sorry, it could not be anyone other than this guy. And you guys might be expecting Neymar to be on this list, right? Neymar is definitely number 1 when he's fit, but he's just spent so much time out of the game, and he's not playing in Europe at the moment. No disrespect to the Brazilian league, but I find it hard to put Neymar in these lists at the moment, right? He's getting his shit together over in Brazil. But a guy who has mimicked his game on Neymar and who cites him as one of his biggest inspirations in the game is Lamine Yamal, my most entertaining player in the game, my number 1 showman in the game. And matter of fact, I've said it on this channel, I'll say it again. I think he's the best player in the world. I don't think he's the best performer this season, but in terms of quality and ability and how good I think this guy actually is at football, I think he's number 1. I think he's the best. Numero uno. So not only do I think he's the best showman, I also think he's the best player in the world. But I think that because, again, this guy is the ultimate combination of just flat out ridiculousness, like audacious showmanship mixed with unbelievable match-winning ability. And again, he's almost like a blend of the crazy 1v1 dribbling, the crazy skill set, the flair, the tricks, the skills in terms of taking on your man, but then also combining that with unbelievable vision, unbelievable flicks, unbelievable, I don't know, trivellas. Like everything about Lamine Yamal just oozes class, man. It oozes silk. And he's also just a damn good player. Lamine Yamal is number 1. I'm honestly like terrified of what this guy could become. Not terrified in a bad way, but it's almost like I'm scared to see just how good this guy could be, because at the moment, he doesn't look like he has a ceiling to his game. Honestly, he looks like he can be anything he wants. Can't say that about everybody. Lamine Yamal is number one in so many metrics, but most importantly for this video, he is, in my opinion, the most entertaining player to watch. Barcelona, in my opinion, this season are the most entertaining team to watch. They're must-see TV. And a big part of that is because of that 17-year-old hugging the right wing that every single time he seems to get on a pitch, puts on a show. Number one showman, most entertaining player in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my top 5. Like I said, this is just my opinion. There's no way you can quantify entertainment. It's a completely subjective list here, and that's my 5. Very random video. You guys might be thinking, why the hell did you upload this? But this is what this channel is about. Me just rambling and getting my thoughts off. Let me know if you guys want to see me do this for other categories, but I'm a big admirer of the players that make football look like an art. And these 5 at the moment, they're Picasso, they're Van Gogh. They're Da Vinci. They're the best at what they do at the moment. So let me know if you guys want to see me do this for a different trait or a different category, but these are my top 5 most entertaining players in the game. Let me know if I missed anybody. Let me know if you think I should have said somebody else. And let me know what you think about my top 5. Like, share, subscribe. I'll be back very, very soon. Make sure you check out the new videos. I'll catch you very, very soon. Peace.